regardless of all this, Conor has never pulled out of a fight before, and that's something that a lot of people were reminding us of. But there is somebody whose pull-out game is very strong right now.
Yeah.
And that's Khamzat Chimaev, who has pulled out of yet another fight. He pulled out of this Saudi Arabia card that's happening this weekend. And there was all sorts of speculation because he was violently ill, according to Dana White.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been a common theme with Khamzat, and we're going to get into that. But so everybody thought it was something like really serious, that there was potentially like a some sort of deep-rooted health issue, but turns out it was food poisoning that pulled him out of the fight.
Yeah.
Now, look, there are obviously varying degrees of food poisoning, but of course, the MMA fan base, when they caught wind of this, they've let Khamzat know that they think that this is kind of weak sauce to pull out of a fight because of food poisoning. Because I think the longest, I don't know if you ever gotten really sick from food poisoning. I went to Mexico 4 months ago, and I got Montezuma's Revenge. It was pretty bad. It's like 2.5 days. It was like 2.5 days of feeling like shit. I don't know if you can pull out of a fight over food poisoning, but there might be something more serious going on here. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's not a good look for Khamzat one way or the other, because especially when you're headlining the Saudi Arabia card, the first ever UFC Saudi Arabia card, it's not good.
Yeah. Look, the one thing I'll say is that I hope that whatever it is, that Khamzat gets better soon, and that he's feeling better. But if he did pull out due to food poisoning, I'll play devil's advocate. Let's say worst case scenario, he's out for a week, right? Like I for food poisoning specifically, it probably doesn't go much longer than that. Sure, it affects his camp. Sure, he's going up against Whittaker. Like, you just got to do it. I feel like I don't know, like you got to make it happen. You keep pulling out. You keep kind of setting yourself back. You're wasting people's time. You're wasting your own potential. We could have seen a lot more of Khamzat by now, but this is his third or fourth time pulling out.
I think it's his third. One thing about food poisoning that I will say that could be a real factor in this is, like, you do lose some strength when you go through it, and it's like you feel very weak when you're done with it, and you're sort of like rebuilding your strength up again. So that is a major factor. It could potentially be bad for just the key elements of a training camp, where you nearly need to be strong going into a fight. I will say this: there would have been no issues making weight. That's for sure. He would have made that weight cut, no question about it. Dana White was on the Jim Rome show. I thought his comments about Khamzat were very interesting and very telling. I wouldn't call it frustration on part of the UFC, but definitely like they're definitely in a tough spot when it comes to Khamzat. What he said to Jim Rome was, the problem is we don't really know what's wrong with him. Every time this guy gets close to a fight, I saw video of him on the ground violently ill. He was hospitalized again. He hasn't trained for 3 or 4 or 5 days. I don't know exactly what the number was, but we could not put him into a fight. He was about to say something. He was about to say, every time we try to book him a fight, and then he stopped himself and he kind of shifted gears. I think there is definitely some like questions within the UFC about like how they go forward, because there's also speculation and people who believe that Khamzat can't even fight in the United States because of his ties to the Chechnyan dictator Kadyrov, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm.
So there's potentially, he might have a visa issue where he can't even fight in the US. And if that's the case, how can you make a guy champion who can't fight in Las Vegas, who can't fight at Madison Square Garden? They're in a tough spot with Khamzat Chimaev right now. That goes beyond just his health issues. Khamzat got COVID in 2020, where he said he thought he was going to die. And ever since then, he's had trouble making weight, and now he has this issue. There seems to be something going on with him. I hope it's nothing super serious, but
yeah,
it's definitely concerning if you're going to try to like put your eggs in the basket of this guy potentially being a champion, because he's definitely capable of being a champion.